Everyone. Hope you all are doing great. Before we begin this session, the Association of Energy Engineers, USA, Kolkata chapter and student chapter at Energy Management, Stream of Public System Management, ISWBM, would like to invite Mr. Samrat Sen Gupta, climate expert at EKI Energy Service Limited. Mr. Sen Gupta is a renewable energy and low carbon development professional with 2.5 decades of experience. He has demonstrated proficiency in policy research and advocacy at national and international, multi and bilateral platforms. He also has successful track records strategizing businesses based on novel technologies and systems in managing startup profit centers, projects, and programs. We would also like to wholeheartedly welcome our fellow participants for joining us for this discussion. This webinar is part of a lecture series, and the topic for the discussion is the carbon market in energy transition. The platform is all yours, sir. You may now start the presentation. Thank you.
Hope you can hear me all. I am audible. Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Sriyanshi, for introducing me. Good afternoon to everyone. I will go through a primary presentation, but the discussion I will do more on the extempo side. So anybody and everybody, if at any point, if you have any queries, any clarification, do interrupt me. Don't wait for the Q&A session. That makes the discussion live. Share screen, all participants. I don't have the access of share screen. Yeah. Now it is there. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir. It's
Yes.
visible.
Yes. Perfect.
So I will be just talking on the macro aspects of the anthropogenic climate change and the relation with energy transition and where this carbon market get fits in. I will not go in details of the micro aspects of the market or energy. That's to my specialized field. So anyone has any queries at any time, do interrupt me, then I will get into the micro aspects. As been introduced, myself Samrat Sen Gupta. I work as a vice president for new business and business strategies in EKI Energy Services Limited. A couple of slides about us. We are a BSE listed carbon asset management firm and possibly the only publicly listed carbon market player in the global arena. One of the largest player by volume, has 200 million credit been traded on our platform. Been there for last 1.5 decade. The company has started this operation in 2008 as a small consulting house, and now we have 40 country clientele with 16, 18 plus countries office operation. And we have listed in all possible accreditation space globally in the carbon market. These are our locations, just a snapshot. Now get down to the subject. you people are aware about climate change because last almost half a decade, the subject has been taken up by the mainstream media. Because I works on climate change, particularly from 2001, and on global multilateral and bilateral platform from 2002. Um, every time we have been quoted or has been referred by international media a lot, but Indian media was not at all interested in climate change that time. But last couple half a decade, it has been high on the agenda. At least it has become a point of discourse. So, what is anthropogenic climate change or human-induced climate change? If you see the paleoclimatic temperature records, some are recorded, some are derived temperature data, because before 200 years, there was, I think, there was no direct recording of temperature being available. It is all being taken from carbon dating or sorts of experiment. So always the Earth has experienced some level of warming or cooling based on which period. And um, if you see the data from last almost 150, 200 years, the gradient of change which matters, which has suddenly changed a lot, suddenly increased manifold, the gradient of change. And that, if you see the linkages with the carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere, there is a quite good correlation where from the idea of human induced climate change get first hit. Though the idea was been into the scientific research domain in 1867, 1897, there are a lot of but it has get a momentum post or during the Rio, and later on we'll discuss how the multilateral platform has taken up the discussion forward. So again, showing the change of pattern which really triggered to under means to the idea that it is human induced, not a natural phenomena of the paleoclimate. Uh, this is showing the correlation of the carbon dioxide as well as some data just for representation or give you an idea. You don't have to be specific on the numbers, but on the trend, which is more important. So what is this greenhouse effect? Though everybody understand what is greenhouse effect, you might have gone to hilly region for any purpose and have seen people do cultivation under a shaded, green shaded canopy where they maintain certain level of temperature in that cold atmosphere. So greenhouse where a layer of particular material which passes high frequency rays or energy and prevent low frequency and longer wavelength, and that creates a temperature which is higher inside that layer, and particularly carbon dioxide along with other six gases you may find about those gases which has been considered as the main reason or why it keeps it helps our earth to be maintained a particular temperature which is feasible for formation of life on this earth. But what has happened during human interference, the concentration of those gases into the atmosphere has increased, and so the warming effect has increased. But our biota, including flora and fauna, including human, our evolution or adaptation to any kind of changes is not accustomed to that sudden change. It requires thousands and thousands of years to get accustomed for any kind of a living thing to get accustomed for any subtle change, but here the change is substantial. What this figure, don't get into too much details on the technicality. What this figure is depicting is that we are not increasing the carbon into this earth. Our total carbon balance is similar. What human activity is doing, that the overall carbon balance into the gaseous atmosphere, we are, due to our activity, that is getting changes, the balance. We are emitting more and more carbon, which earlier been deposited in solid or liquid format. We are releasing it. And the cycle it takes to get it back to the previous form requires millions of years, formation of coal or petroleum. And that's why that kind of that kind of fuel is not called renewable, whereas any kind of biomass is called renewable because the cycle takes less than a year or maybe at least a year to get back to its original form. If you so to highlight that it is really the concentration of the carbon into our gaseous atmosphere is matter, not, we are not disturbing the overall carbon content of this earth, but we are disturbing the balance in the gaseous atmosphere. So we are at the junction, as you have all read through IPCC 6 assessment report, or there were few publications in 5th assessment and 6th assessment in between talking about carbon balance, and that we are almost going to breach the 550 parts per million concentration very soon, maybe by 2030, beyond which it will be statistically impossible to check the global warming within 1.5 degree centigrade by end of this century. Because when a carbon dioxide get released into the atmosphere, the average lifetime is more than 100 years. So when it is get released, you have to bear the consequences. You cannot, unless otherwise forcefully absorb those carbon dioxide. Yet that all are theory. We haven't experienced anything which can be large scale deployed in carbon capture or carbon capture utilization and storage. Though the research been carried out almost for last 25 years, and it has a huge support of the fossil fuel lobby, still it has not come out of the laboratory. I personally do not very much encouraged by the discussion about CCU and CCUS other than BECS, which is bioengineering carbon. So this is related to biota specific. So we have to we have to arrest our peak emission by 2030 and then abruptly make it flat without any increment for next 70 years to maintain the 1.5 degree centigrade possibilities by end of this century, which is practically impossible at present day situation. Let's see how we can react to it. History of multilateral movement as intergovernmental and international deliberation on environment. First, environment getting an agenda at a multilateral platform is Stockholm, which leads to a formation of UNEP. And later on in 79, when World Climate Conference in 79 and Toronto Conference, the first the global warming concept being discussed, which get affected means get embedded in UNEP, and later on WMO jointly established the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. You can see the fallacy. We are in a development process or development paradigm, which is started with the Industrial Revolution in the North 200 years ago, without deliberately, without taking the ecosystem services into the valuation of the so-called economic valuation due to a vested interest, and which is still controlling. But that particular service means, which is the resource for all our economic development, so-called, is only theoretically, thematically getting addressed at 50 years ago. So that's the main reason of whatever problem related to environment, sustainability, ecosystem, including climate change, the Earth is facing at this moment. IPCC Fast Assessment Report came up in 1990, which creates the basic structure of, based on that, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. In 1992, it has been agreed that the footprint of the wrongdoing is not proportionate. And UNFCCC in writing accept it and make it a common but differentiated responsibility. And later on, it has transmitted to Kyoto, which is also stands on this common but differentiated responsibility on a polluters pay principle. But we have seen how the North has flip-flopped and make a well-structured, possibly the most robust MRV structured protocol to get hit the ground failed. And then they come up with a Paris Agreement, which has a lot of good things, but they have sidelined the common but differentiated responsibility. Says, forget about whatever we have done or everybody has done. Now it is everybody's responsibility to save this world. So the equity get a hit. Nobody talks about equity now. Now, in this whole debate, the main culprit is our energy utilization. And in this era of industrial revolution, when it started its means in 1850 or 1840 around, energy sources and its corporatization, possibly one of the main drivers for making our this development era as a consumption centric development era. It has always been measured as how consumptive the economy is. Even today, GDP is the possibly the largest indicator of your economic strength, which 100% depend on your consumption level. And due to this consumption-centric development model and the investment cartel from the era of coal and oil, because the resource was geologically concentrated and controlled by very few corporates and individual, not more than 10 in this 7.5, 8 billion people. Yeah. So the ecosystem services has been deliberately sidelined. They don't want to put in financial value of the coal they were extracting, they are extracting now from the earth surfaces, which requires a millions of years in formation. And we haven't put a value against it, and we decided everything on a financial parameter, and the financial parameter has not internalized the environmental cost of that supply, and that's create a very unsustainable consumption which the present day earth cannot beyond its regenerative potential. And all the problem around our existential catastrophe like climate change, any other environmental problems or anything has a link to it. So taking the same route, when we have hit the problem, and you see the climate change was deliberated from 1970 on. I am into this deliberation from 2001. It was all English, no action. Even at multilateral fora, it was all announcement, no activity. Suddenly, in last 1 decade, it has been realized that their so-called wealth, which is in their financial terms, cannot save them from the impact of climate change, particularly if you see the heat wave in Europe, the North America, day after two kind of a scenario, which is now real. It has considered a global problem, and they came out just last, say, 3-4 years beyond English. Okay, we have done the English, now we should get into action. So the real action on ground has started recently. And what was the hurried route? Because we last 200 years we were hostage of technologies being developed particularly for the usage of a concentrated source of energy sources. And so even in this catastrophic problem, we haven't taken that transformational route, we have taken the transition, energy transition, it is rightly called, because we don't want to change that technology, corporate control technology cartel, and we try for how to make the energy source fit into from a concentrated source of like coal, oil, instead of renewable. And then we talk about end-use electrification, because that's the most possible, practical, viable retrofit into the old technological paradigm we are having, to retrofit with electricity. You cannot change a IC engine to just take the benefit of renewable source and get it run. If we want to make a vehicle run, we have to make it electrified. So end-use electrification become the mainstream agenda, And where there is not yet technology available to directly use the electricity, like metallurgy, like long haul transportation, we are talking about hydrogen or green hydrogen, which ultimately comes from renewable. But in this whole era, everything is good. We go for renewable, at least it is better than whatever we were doing. We are going for renewable based hydrogen production as a fuel energy carrier. It is not a source. But what we are doing, we are again forgetting a life cycle approach, and we are again dependent on material minerals which are geographically or geologically very concentrated, and we are creating another new oil out of lithium or cobalt. In our, if you see, the India is the largest or the uh, fastest growing economy. Why India is so powerful now? Because it has the market to absorb whatever you make, market to consume. And what we are trying to consume is renewable, which is good, but we are forgetting that what will happen after 25 years of a project lifetime, the waste that is going to be generated, because the PPA, power purchase agreement, been developed, executed, which state doesn't give the responsibility of environmentally environment friendly and economically sustainable recyclability of that waste or disposal of it. So we are happy with 2 rupees power, but that power again not internalize the cost of environment. So there are a lot of loose ends in this process also, which need to be tied in. Now I talk about a carbon market. Though there are a lot of criticism of the market, but the best part is this is possible the fast efforts to internalize the cost of environment, the cost associated with ecosystem services. Maybe it is in the form of carbon. It has not included the local environmental pollutant and other aspects, biodiversity and everything yet. But it is the first efforts towards internalize that cost into business valuation. And last couple of years, when it has been understood that climate change seriously increases the risks of any investment, it is getting attracted, or in the form of ESG score, the climate friendly attributes are making high score to make those investments minimize their risks. And in the form, financial institutions are getting in their business assessment of or investment assessment for any businesses, climate is in their mainstream parameter. That's the good part of it. So it is getting internalized into the general business practices. That's the good part of it. Yes, there are a lot of anomalies, and anomalies even after 200 years of our corporate so-called capitalist cycle. We have seen bank get busted, we have seen all financial corruptions being happen. So every system has a corruption. So only highlighting a small part of it, any kind of anomalies been happened, and saying bad about the whole concept is not the right way, I think so. So I will now talk about the carbon market, because my present professional activity is 100% on this carbon market. It's so the market carbon so-called emission reduction market or emission market initially being into the US for particularly SOx trading been initiated to reduce their sulfur dioxide emissions from various industrial activity in 70s and 80s, 1970s, where the concept was first being originated and been practiced successfully. Later on, during the climate change discussion, particularly when after UNFCCC get formed, how to activate the emission reduction, incorporating businesses to be a part of it. When Kyoto Protocol been formalized, it has been almost on the same principle of polluters pay, where the Annex 1 countries, or Annex 1 is an annexure of Kyoto Protocol, Annexure 1, where list of all developed countries who have the maximum footprint on historical carbon emissions they were being listed. They were given a target of 5.2 or 5.4% of emission reduction from 90 baseline by 2012. And they have, along with the target, they have given various mechanisms: emission trading, JI, and CDM. Particularly, clean development mechanism has been designed where non-obligated party, non-Annex 1 parties can also participate in this global efforts on emission reduction by getting into project development will avoid emission. How to avoid emission? The baseline scenario and the project scenario, the difference is if baseline scenario minus project scenario difference is positive, is its avoidance. So that was the concept, and it was kicked up very well. The regulatory mechanism as being formed under CDM Executive Board in UN was one of the most robust, and up to 2011-12 it was all running positive, but after 2008 economic repercussion in Europe, and post 2012 when it was been well singled out that North America will be not part of it, the largest emitter that time, the market slowly getting collapsed. And due to various other reasons, I don't want to get into a political discussion now. And later on, to include the largest polluters into this whole game, it has been compromised that we should shade off that polluters pay principle and say everybody will contribute. And Paris Agreement came in. During this Kyoto, there are a lot of voluntary activities also being taken up, because a lot of people thinks that Kyoto makes a credit fungible, a credit coming from any activities, one credit only. It doesn't really attributes to the SDG. It doesn't really give attribution certificates to other environmental and social aspects, so which should be valued. So various voluntary registry system like GS, VCS, although that been developed between 2005, 6, 7, and that also have got established. But when this Paris comes in 2015, which really makes everybody on this earth equally responsible for emission reduction, and during that period when North are getting hugely impacted due to the impacts of climate change or global warming, the investor community felt it really makes their investment more risky, and the corporate action towards climate mitigation gets started. And what was the vehicle they primarily used is primarily used the voluntary carbon market, and it gets shoot up. The voluntary carbon market activity gets shoot up, the transaction gets shoot up, and it really was taking off till 2022 February March. Then the war started in the Euro, and particularly Europe was concerned about their energy security. So due to the war and various other aspects on North America, the market got a hit again back, but there was no flip flop on the conceptual part of it. And with the recent development, the Article 6.4 in UN, which is more or less a cut copy paste of the earlier CDM activity with some level of new regulations, new tightening of norms and everything. But on process is more or less Article 6.4. Yeah, CDM coming on. It going to be a major market in next 1 decade or less than that, next maybe half a decade, driving the financial investment towards environment friendly processes and activities. But yes, that environment friendly, we need to understand it should be assessed on a life cycle basis rather than just on your project boundary basis. That changes yet to be incorporated in a larger scale, but it will slowly get in. So these are all the positives of carbon market. In between, due to vested interest, there are anomalies being created. There are people who have used it wrongly, but that sort of corruption doesn't really matters the market principle. And I think it will be a vibrant market within 2030, driving all the development process in this world. So this history I have talked about, I will not run through. Whenever I share the presentation, you may like to go through as a record for purpose. I have talked about voluntary carbon market and present aspects of Article 6.4, which if you have any interest, you can ask me and I will get in all the details because that's where I really works. So just give you a potential, because I think most of our audience is from India, just give you a potential of the carbon market. If you see in 2013-14 or 2011-12, when the solar was on the verge of just getting into the market, the levelized cost of power was hitting a record of 17-18 rupees from solar technology. At that time, carbon market has helped to make it a little bit more attractive. With more and more push now, the solar technology is a business as usual technology. So it has those kind of bringing the extra reward and leverage for technologies who really addresses the environmental positive attributes and give them a required financial validity to sustain. Uh, it is it has been assessed that in the CDM era, we have done around 10 billion USD of FDI flow from exporting of credit. And as per various reports available in public domain, people are talking about some 150, 50 to $200 billion of market And if we take just 150 figure, and at this moment, India is the largest suppliers of credit into the voluntary market. In CDM time, we were the second largest. So we have a 60 to 70 billion green FDI possibility with us, which will help us to make our development foray in a more greener perspective. We can adopt technologies, we can adopt processes which are really environment friendly with the use of that carbon market. This is a avenue for channelizing the green investment. Thank you. I am open for all question. We have 20 minutes left, and that doesn't matter. I can stay more if people are interested. Thank you. How to stop
Thank you,
the?
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for delivering such an engrossing session. I do hope all the participants have been hugely benefited from such a session. We will now take the questions one by one from our participants, and I will tell them to Mr. Sengupta, who will answer them one by one. So,
Sure.
sir, the first question is from Choyan Dirghangi. So, he is asking, what is the basic difference between the CDM and the voluntary carbon standards like the GCS and the VERA?
Conceptually, there is no difference. On the process side, CDM used to have a host country, means government participation into the process, but a voluntary carbon standard project doesn't require any kind of intervention from the government. But in the concept, there is no difference in it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So, sir, the second question will be from me. So, sir, we know that for the registration in the various carbon standards, voluntary standards, we have to prove the additionality of our projects.
Yeah.
So, in the previously, the renewable energy projects were very costly, but now we don't know that the prices have decreased, and many governments are giving incentives for installing solar or wind. So now they have become very financially attractive. So how hard it is to prove additionality for renewable projects nowadays?
Renewable projects which are business wise attractive. There is two concepts. One is viable, one is attractive.
Okay.
So we have to prove that for a particular business line, from the investor's point of view, though it is not the best return generated investment on that particular sector,
Okay. Okay.
he is getting into it on the consideration of carbon revenue will meet them to make it attractive.
Okay. Okay.
So it is not viability in question. It is from an investor's perspective. Yes, nowadays solar project with S1 bidding system, it's very difficult to prove the additionality aspects.
Yes.
And if it is not additional, it should not go.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. So, sir, the next question is from Shumeda Gangopadhyay. She is asking, can you please explain the concept of carbon offsetting?
You have to reduce your emission, but you can do it by technology intervention. All consumption related aspects addressing it, but there will be still some residual emission from your business activity.
Yes.
So the residual emission from your business activity can be reduced by investing in other carbon avoidance and absorption project or activities. Let's not talk business. Absorption activities like and you can offset your emission by utilizing those avoidance or absorption credits and in corporate accounting system declare yourself carbon neutral.
Okay. Thank you. So, sir, next question will be again from me. So, we know, sir, when the carbon credits are generated, different companies buy them to meet their ESG goals and their reduction targets. So, my question is: are the prices of these credits variable, or they are fixed with respect to something?
Prices is completely based on very many factors. So it is
Okay.
all variable. It's
Okay.
not fixed.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. So, I would now like to invite our respected BKC sir to deliver the vote of
Sir, I
thanks.
have a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Yeah. Since our students are there, so can you please explain a bit about this carbon, how the trading process is happening? So they will get enlightened that the process of trading, say from a developed country like India, how a company or how we do this trading process of carbon trade.
Considering trading, it's a trading means you have to sell and somebody has to buy, or you
Right.
have to buy, somebody has to sell.
Mm.
So in the Kyoto era, the trading used to happen bilaterally, taking reference of EU ETS trading platform prices, because it was been allowed. Then the EU ETS system, you can consume 10% of your target by purchasing of CDM credit. So there were some linkages. But in voluntary era, Paris era, we don't use any kind of emission trading system. There are n numbers of emission trading system in the world: EU ETS, Korean ETS, New Zealand ETS.
Mm.
So, and India is coming also. ETS is a
Mm.
completely a different ball game. So it doesn't interact with the ETS credit. Means ETS credit and voluntary credit or corporate credit is two, one apple, one oranges. You cannot mix up those things.
Mm.
So it is completely done on a private platform. Means you have some commodity, somebody wants it. Based on your cost of production and based on the purchase interest, if that match, it gets on a private OTC counter trade. After the trade, people do put those numbers in some kind of a so-called services, like they used to give you a projection of what are the prices going on and everything. Standard and Poor are doing it. There are one or two expansive kind of a trading platform being developed where things are getting traded on, not on real time, but most on a forward. But in coming 2 years, there will be n numbers of trading platform, like today's power trading platform we are having, where price will be discovered in a transparent and fair manner. So present day it is done on a private platform or OTC counter, over the counter kind of thing.
Mm.
A real trading platform, so-called real-time trading, is not happening at this moment. Means trading technically. So buying and
Yes.
selling is happening, but so-called trading is not happening.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Uh,
Any other question?
we have
Anyone?
We have one last question from Snehashish Topodar. So he is asking, can the carbon credit trading be merged with the renewable energy certificates or the e-search trading?
People are reading a lot of newspaper and not the actual text. You are talking about ETS. It's a cap and trade system. Basically, a PAT derivative or REC derivative or RPO derivative, REC is the derivative, is coming out from the same cap and trade system, and both can be easily converted to carbon. So down the line from 2020, the CCTS is announced now. Down the line in 2026, or ideally the target was 2025 April, but now we have delayed in announcement by few months. So ideally somewhere in 2025 or 26 financial year starting, it will be made regulatory, and PAT and REC will get abolished and everything will be converted into carbon, CCC so-called. That is not really the voluntary credit. Yes, there are some differences.
Okay.
So
Thank,
every
thank you, sir.
counting in the regulatory platform will be done on carbon, and that too on the efficiency of the output, an absolute.
Thank you, sir. So I would now like to invite our respected BKC sir to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening. We are honored to have, we are very much thankful to Mr. Samrat Sengupta. In fact, I had a few queries, but I am traveling and outside
No
home. So
issue,
there may be
sir.
some.
I have lot of time. You can ask me.
Okay, so one query is that recently we saw that there is some international standardization of carbon reporting, ESG reporting. So
Mhm.
the ESG reporting, rather, international standardization is happening.
Mhm.
And we know that already there are some reporting standards by
Sir,
GRI,
can you
then
switch
we
off
have
your video?
UN Global Compact.
Yeah. Sir, can you switch off your video? Then
Huh?
voice will
Which
be
one?
much more clear. You can switch off
Oh,
your
oh, oh,
video,
oh, okay.
then your voice will be much more clear. The bandwidth
Oh,
utilization will
I
go up.
am trying to do that. Okay, is it better now?
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
better.
yeah. So now, what will be the impact? The GRI or UN Global Compact, along with that, we are now having some international standardization of ESG reporting. Then
Sir,
what will be the effect of that?
GRI or compact, I really don't be the front runner in the ESG reporting. It is much more on the TSVCM side.
Okay.
So present day what happening, the all the big certification agencies, they have their own standard, and the standard doesn't match even 60% with each other. So
Right.
to evaluate it by a financial institution, suppose a bank is trying to invest in a project, the project has gone to a particular certification agency and they have got a score. For a financial institution, it become very difficult to understand the viability of that score for their own internal purpose. If there is a global standard being declared, then the score will be much more similar. But if it is done by DNV, TUV, or SGS, and there will be a little bit variability for individual perception of non-quantified qualitative parameters, but it become much more formalized. And from the super investors perspective, who is sitting somewhere, the 6 7 people who have the whole investment, BlackRock kind of thing, from their perspective it will be much streamlined to understand any score coming to them, how to evaluate the score for any investment.
Okay, it is very clear now. Thank you very much. Another thing is that you know that you are being one of the topmost senior of our this energy management program, and also you know that now we have been switched over to the MBA
I
this
lost you, sir.
CDM,
Yeah.
this global the net zero reporting, etc., are being included. We are getting inputs from from you and other alumni members. And the syllabus is also, we are trying best within the university system to upgrade continuously our syllabus.
Mhm.
Now, we shall continue to have about the job readiness of our students, current students. Can you give, because many of them are here, can you give, I mean, just now in a detail we can have more discussion, but from at the top of your mind, that what are the preparatory, what should be the focus for them? Because this is, you have shown very nicely that the market is huge for even India, it is even more prospective. So how our students can get job ready to take the maximum benefit of this opportunity from energy management point of view, from MBA in energy management point of view? What are your top advices, a few of them?
Sir, it depends on the individual interest. If they are interested in sustainability reporting, the whole gamut of sustainability reporting, that's where ultimately the knowledge activity of the market will going to stay. All other trading, project development, this will happen, but the driver will be sustainability reporting, which particularly the ESG reporting you have talked about. There is a hell lot of a financial sector related reporting initiative and standardization get coming in. Even if you have seen, SEBI has made it regular mandatory for 1,000 top listed company to report their BRSR. So that's a sector where there will be a lot of demand. Now, even there are a lot of demand. There is not too much supply of talented manpower there. There is a huge demand supply gap there. If you make yourself, along with the courses you are doing on energy management, there are various certification process runs by various institutions. Make yourself acquainted with that. Not only the certificate, but also the knowledge. When you will be ultimately talking to people, you should make sense that you know the basic very well. The everywhere the basic matters. Rest all you can develop yourself. You don't have to write a huge equation to make yourself successful. You understand where from the equation getting generated, the basic physical aspects of that. That will make your life more easy in the whole competition or whole professional competition.
So nicely explained, and I hope we shall all get ready for that, and particularly the budding managers in the class uh, take benefit of these
Sure, sir.
tips
Sure.
and
Yeah.
have the comparison. Yeah. Now, I, as a formal vote of thanks, it is my proud privilege to offer on behalf of IISWBM, our own alumni member. Truly, you are keeping, in fact, on a special note, I would like to mention personally that your name, actually, you have really kept your name very justified. You are doing lot of leadership activity in the field,
Thank you,
and
sir.
we from the bottom of our heart, we wish to look at your such success more and more in this area,
Mm.
and we hope that this kind of inputs that we get from you, that we
Yeah.
shall continue to get, and we get your guidance in terms of the final preparation and placement of our alumni, of our students who are in the final year. And in terms of their projects, in their internship, we always come to our alumni because we get the very strong support from you.
Mhm.
And so you are representing all of them in that way also. So for that, a special thanks to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, PLE, for giving me the opportunity. This is possibly the first time formally I am addressing ISWBM in my
Yes.
24 years after I passed out.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much that you agreed to talk with just in a call. Just I called you and you agreed. That's I was telling because he said that he agreed with just a call. So thank you so much.
Thank
Actually,
Yeah.
we want your more classes and some interaction with the students more. This is just 1 hour, so hopefully in future we can interact more with the
I
students.
will be not very much helpful to you. Please
Mhm.
do contact me. I will make my team available,
Sure.
or particularly I am also having a sustainability team,
Mhm.
and they are one of the best team, though people have talked about Big Fours, but Big
Yes.
Fours, we are becoming a third party auditor of the Big Fours activity. So that's where my team can come contribute. It helps also to develop skilled manpower for our own purpose. I am not I'm selfish here also. So and definitely we can contribute on that.
Yeah, and this
Thank you.
session, this will continue every second or third Saturday of every month. Association of Energy Engineers USA, the largest body of energy professionals, the first India chapter this was established in as early as 2003 at our institute hosted in the energy management department, and this is being organized this meeting. Thanks to PLE for contacting the right person for this week. And next month we shall have another session, and we invite all of the audience and others who are interested to continue to participate and contribute.
Sure. And AEEE, we have some business relation with them. We are having a understanding, official understanding with them. So happy to contribute. Thank you. Okay, bye. Have a nice day. Bye.